I don't want to do it. Don't want to risk it. Yeah, we come back to Eogun. We're about to Heinrichs, it's fine. Ooh, Solomon's going to get hurt though. Gleito getting big booms. Look at him go! So this is what people are talking about, what Gleito can do with that. You want to leave Pascal alone though? So let's talk about Solomorne and Gleito. Unfortunately, Solomorne comes mid-leveled into his tier 2, which means build variety is not there very much. However, understanding how Gleito and Solomorne work together is going to be quite important. So I'm just going to be moving around some things here. What you need to understand when I start showing off bits for this build is you want advanced tracking to be building up some flat damage on Gleito. You're going to need to repair the movement issues that Solomorne has due to his upgrades in his firearm mastery. So you're going to want dash and consolidation, and then you're going to be thinking about how you set it up, because to get the best bonuses from his vigilant, Solomon needs enemies to have taken damage via Gleito. So if Gleito comes in with protect, he can AoE hit enemies around Solomon, and this starts setting him up, and if he's got electrified strikes from Eogun, he'll do quite a bit of damage. Now this was unfortunately nerfed. That opening clip is what they took away from us, which was showing a very early level 20s version doing a lot more damage than what we're doing now in the later game. But the other thing you can do is you can use strategic adaptation, that as long as you get a kill on an attack, you'll actually refund an attack action. You can then stack this with other stuff like concentrated fire for bigger shotgun attacks. Originally I did like to build Solomon for dual weapon combat, however that is quite bugged with shotgun mastery, and oftentimes the offhand attack doesn't work. Now if you exclusively use Finest Hour, you won't notice this bug, but if you also exclusively use Finest Hour, you don't want to be taking dual weapon combat because you'll never see any benefit. Other things to consider is Gleito himself would actually be really powerful, especially with his ultimate, if the increased cost of the apprehend didn't go up. This might be something I might start trying to get into the idea of the developers, is that apprehend shouldn't have a constant 1 AP increase. To make Overseer more usable, it should always have just that base cost of 1, and then when you obviously get the 3 apprehends for free, it shouldn't increase it. But as you can see, Gleito can move around here, and it is single target, so it is better to lock him onto a boss and then multi-attack. However, one of the ways to get the most damage out of Solomon is actually going to be in his tier 3 building up rapid fire and going into burst fire. Unfortunately, area attacks are support weapons and they just don't keep up with what burst fire can do. Like, I can easily do a 5k damage burst like that with basically no buff investment. To do that on a shotgun, you're going to need a 5-man buff stack squad. So these are just things to consider. Now, if I take a squad that is designed for buffing, we can see what Solomon can do a little bit more with Gleito. So again, as always, you're going to be wanting to click this advanced tracking at the start of the round, because the more that you move, the more the pet does. If the pet is following you because of protect, you can actually run him all over the map and you can do a lot of damage. There's a very famous Spiffing Brit video where in this section, he actually used the unlimited uses of protect, which Alka actually nerfed, to stack some insane damage, which is having the dog run around the battlefield and building up infinite damage. However, they did put a cap in for advanced tracking to counter specifically the Spiffing Brit, which is kind of funny when you think about it. They did a sponsored video that nerfed what he did in the sponsored video. But anyway, when you then stack up, so as with before with Solomon, if you then use all of his special attacks to get some extra damage here, so even though we haven't built up many stacks of additional damage, we're still easily popping out 1,000 damage here. But more importantly is with the Necron Tech Lad's gun that comes in Act 4 now, and very early on in Act 4, we have an exceptionally powerful endgame item that we can just abuse, and we can use it for both single shots and burst shots, and it pairs very nicely with Gleito. If Gleito's apprehending an enemy, such as a boss, and I take 23 single shots on that boss, Gleito will follow up every time. With Eogun's electrified strikes, that means it will also follow up twice each time with that as well. So it is very good for just taking stuff out. So again, if I put onto the Hellbrute here, Gleito here, now I have those 23 single shots, and I could keep taking individual shots to build up damage, or I could just burst it. Unfortunately, burst does not allow for multiple uses of apprehend, though the log does queue it. So as you can see there, yeah, shot squeeze is doing 200, 300 damage, even though I hadn't stacked up every possible buff. I didn't have joint analysis up in play there, but we can start adding in stuff like that. But as you can see, yeah, we did a lot of damage. As we start building up stacks of fired up, and as we continue to build up other stacks to increase the damage of our burst fire, we'll probably easily get to 500 per bullet, if not more. So because I have so many single shots, Solomon can now easily just pick off enemies at range. One of the biggest issues that people complain about Solomon is his lack of range, but yeah, firearm mastery with the Necron Tech Hotshot Lasgun, it's not going to have that issue. If you use one of the other Lasguns, they are usable, they are just notably weaker, but there is going to be viable options, especially if you're then sending Glato out to attack and then following up with a free attack. You've just got to be very wary of that cost increase. As you can see, Apprehend now costs 3 AP to use. Like I said, it would be better if the cost of that didn't increase. And as you can see, part of that burst fire, the first hit there did 500 to that world bearer, and the other's doing 300, 400. One of the reasons that we take consolidation is it allows Solomon to move to Glato. So when you start getting line of sight issues, because Glato's been sent out to another area, so I can't quite hit these guys, but what I can do is use Glato to move on to some things in my line of sight, and if I can't see line of sight, I can move to Glato to then move him on. So yeah, I can take out this word bearer here by doing another burst, and because I've done so many single shots, yeah, my initial shot was 500 with all the follow-up shots doing 400 as itself. So that's easily going to be 22 times 400, which is obviously going to be a lot of damage, plus the 500 on top of that. So yeah, burst fires is going to be his strongest way to do it, and you don't need to go too crazy with burst, but yeah, this Necron Tech Hotshot Lasgun is absolutely insane. And because of as rate of fire increases, so I'm not even using compensating gloves on here. So if you gave him the compensating gloves and the tactical backpack, the elite carapace, then yeah, that would also be absolutely insane. So let's talk about our main man Arbiters here, Solomon, and go on with what is actually happening with this build here. So as I have built Solomon for this DLC, is like I said, I have dropped the double shotguns because it just often doesn't work, and if you're using Finest Hour, the talent doesn't do anything anyway, so you won't actually need 2 shotguns, and it's better to use the double barrel shotgun with the gunnery shield so you have 3 reloads because it is the highest damaging shotgun in the game. As for itemization, it will vary based on what companions you have access to, because obviously the best item you can give them is going to be the compensated gloves, which will rapidly boost the Necron Tech Hotshot Lasgun, and you can also use the Paris Carapace Elite Backpack to also boost that up. You will also have access to items like Bead of Might and Demolition Instructions, or even Echo of Victory, which will help increase his damage, but it is all going to depend on who is the main people running in your party, and especially if you're not using compensating gloves, you might want something like the Recoil Wall Boots, but you'll also want to keep in mind that you need to give Glato some stuff. Wrath of the Meek is quite powerful early on, but later on you're going to want to start moving over to stuff like Pack Hunting. That's also giving him weapon skill and giving a lot more strength coming in there. But the itemization, like I said, the Necron Tech Hotshot Lasgun, which now comes next to, is his most powerful item. You're actually going out of your way to make him weaker by not using it. You will pick up some really cool armors that will scale from conversion with him through his main storyline, as well as using stuff like the Gunslinger's Helm, which you can apply to it. And funny enough, you can even get that to apply to the double-barreled shotgun, because it will add on a little bit of extra damage based on what the rate of fire of double-barreled shotgun wants to be. So the Gunslinger's Helmet is also going to be quite usable here. But let's talk about his actual build. Solomon's origin comes with Torrent of Fury. Solomon removes all stacks of Fury, his critical hit chance, damage dealt, and his dodge reduction are increased by the number of stacks of Fury, and you gain stacks of Fury by whenever Glato suffers damage. So yeah, people attacking your dog is actually going to be quite useful for you. Other early things that you are going to see coming into here is going to be the fact that he has shield mastery, so you can freely use a shield, and then if you pick up your shotgun mastery, you'll be able to one-hand shields, and in his augments, he also comes with the Master Link Visors. There aren't that many augments that directly benefit Solomon, but some useful ones that I've definitely found is the Weapon Optimizer, but if you put on too much on him, you can't get away with using something like the Jump Boots. If you don't put on, say, the Weapon Optimizer, I do recommend putting on the Jump Boots, just give him some early game movement, but you gotta remember that is going to be permanent. The Eye Lasers could be quite good with him, but like the Master Link Visors is a very unique item for him, so it's not too bad to go with this, and the fact is that the negative only applies when you can't see Glato. Solomorne's early build is built around shotgun, so he takes Rack and Ruin, which is going to upgrade his damage when he hits several enemies. He takes Demolition Engineer, which increases his damage based on his agility and his demolition skill for his shotguns rather than that of his intelligence. He takes Grisly Adjudication, which is annoying because whilst this is good to get additional arm penetration and to inflict bleeding, we're not an executioner, so that bleeding is not actually going to do much for us. Ideally, if this was rapid fire, so you can actually make him a decent soldier, or even just dash, so you can dedicate him to just area clear with shotgun, that would be a lot more useful, but unfortunately that is what comes with him. He does get lawful intervention, so he can parry with guns, so you do want to invest in ballistic skill. He does have second skin instead of something like alacrity, which means that medium armor doesn't reduce his dodge. His firearm mastery upgrade he takes is, until the end of combat, all of the soldiers' attacks are 20% harder to dodge, and they get 10% arm penetration. Unfortunately, we would like this 3 to be upgrade 1, so that means when you're using his heroic that you don't consume MP when attacking. He gets Point Blank, which is useful for getting extra arm penetration on shotguns. Concentrated Fire, very good ability because we get scaling damage to shotguns based on our ballistic skill bonus. He does get Armor Piercing, which is going to be something that's useful for him. And he does have Camaraderie. If you set Glato to protect, he'll constantly have this bonus coming in. Prepared Prosecution is going to be one that is going to be a little bit glitched. So if you're Fiend Virbo 6, it will immediately proc, so you will take shotguns. Be very careful that you don't accidentally blast allies as he's shooting enemies in the planning phase. And Pillar of the Law, his coercion and his block go up when he gets the heroic attack. This is a bit of a wasted one, but we would have preferred something else, but he does take Firearm Mastery upgrade 4, which means whilst he's got Firearm Mastery up, that his areas do additional damage. Originally, he came leveled locked to 16, but now he is only level locked to 19, which is a little bit better, which means obviously he has Glato proficiency because Glato is unique. He gets advanced tracking by default, which is okay. It's not the one we'd pick first, but like I said, Familiar's weapon skill bonus for each cell it travels, it does stack up and it adds flat damage. So if you move Glato around a lot, like I said, you can set him to track you as you move, and it will build up his damage. He gets Relentless Pursuit, so Apprehend allows him to have Fellowship bonus more damage. That's going onto the target, and his Heroic Overcharge that, yes, until the end of combat, the side massive deals additional damage equal to its weapon skill bonus of the target's maximum wounds. Like I said, if Apprehend didn't constantly increase on AP cost, this would be very effective. So what my build aims to do is to best utilize Glato and then get the most out of Burst Fire, so you're just a really effective soldier build that happens to be an Overseer, and it's the best way to recover Solomorne in my opinion. Taking in Ballistic Skill early will increase our hit chance, critical hit chance. Rive Calibration will reduce the cost of our first Overseer ability to make us more AP efficient. Strategic Adaptation is going to be very important because when we first use it, getting a kill will refund an attack action. So more attack actions means more kills, which means better combat character. Take in Enhanced Augmetics to get the dog's characteristics up for its weapon skill and its strength, which is also going to be useful. Shotgun Mastery is one we get in, so we can two-hand shotgun, so we can use that with the shield, so we have that block chance and we can set up for counterattacks. Very useful for him, and you will put a secondary burst fire weapon in there. Chainmaw, yep, we can start up and scaling the damage of the dog. Getting more agility in demolitions is going to be very useful because obviously demolitions will scale our damage, agility will scale our damage, and so will our dodge. Overcharge 2 is going to be one of the really good ones because we get plus 30 to key characteristics, which makes the pet do more. All the pets' additional attacks count as extra turns, so anything that you give them with extra turns like Eager Subordinates will increase their damage, and it's why you can multi-proc Eagergun's abilities. Suppression Factor will lower enemy strength and willpower, which makes Glato easier to hit and critical hit. Law and Order will increase our damage during extra turns, so it's another important one. Consolidation, like I said, this is very useful for gaining mobility because it allows you to move towards the pet. So yeah, being able to just move towards the pet means that after you've attacked, you can send the pet to attack someone, and then you can move up with them, which because Solomon has poor mobility, this is quite useful. Side by side is also useful because, you reroll dodge attempts if you're next to each other. So if you have Protect, like you saw in that opening clip, it does help that it allows Solomon to dodge attacks, and same for Glato. Public Sentences is another one. When enemies fail willpower checks, then you get to make an attack of opportunity. If you have that shotgun out, bam, bam, blam. Continue to get the perception up. We do want to focus ballistic skill, agility, and perception. It's going to be very important. Perimeter defense allows Glato to move even further with protect. So like I said, it is abusable. And there are items that allow you to use it multiple times per round. So that is something you can consider if you want to run the dog around to then do a really big attack. Mob Justice will add our willpower to damage. It in 3 cells around the Arbiter, so it will buff Glato as well if he's nearby. And Overcharge Protocol 1s. Whenever the Familiar becomes a target of an enemy's attack, the Overseer has the damage increased by 2%. So forcing enemies to attack Glato will stack Fury, and it will stack up other things for Solomorne. There are ways that you can abuse this, though I've never really felt it to be necessary. Moving into tier 3, this is when we can really start to recover Solomorne's early build. So degraded defense means that as we do damage, we'll keep doing damage. This is really big for any burst fire build, so it's useful to get in there. Fired up is also the one that anytime the soldier deals damage, you get 1% critical damage, which again, as we're going into rate of fire, this is going to be very useful. More demolitions, automatic protection, which will allow protect ally to ignore attack for some opportunities, so you can just run around the dog fairly easily. If you put this on, say, Heinrichs, who's generating MP on attacks, you can have him run around the dog, and anyone that tries to attack him, the dog will attack. But more importantly, the more it moves, the more damage it'll do that round when it comes back to you. That one is hard to abuse, but there are a couple of ways to do it. Like I mentioned with the ring that allows multiple uses of protect, so you can just run the dog either side of the map a few times. Continuing increasing ballistic skill, we also pick up Grenadier because grenades are really powerful now. It's an area attack, so this is an area attack build, so more of those useful. Yeah, the ability that's going to be very important to get an Exemplar is going to be rapid fire, and just as always, remember, all of this stuff is in the spreadsheet below with item suggestions, so if you're struggling to keep up with my talking speed, it's already in the spreadsheet, so don't worry. Like I said, Eager Subordinates does apply to your pet when you do it, so it's 15% damage boost, so that is quite nice. Brother-in-Arms will give you extra resolve in the area. We all know stacking resolve is meta in this game to abuse heroic actions. Yeah, continuing ballistic skill for hit chance and critical hit chance, and to also give rate of fire with rate of fire gear. Very useful, but unfaltering fire, so rapid fire no longer reduces damage. Yeah, builds online now. Builds fully online. Bite will give you another opportunity to give an attack from Glato that isn't having the stack increase from Apprehend, but it won't allow the follow-up, because obviously it removes the Apprehend Protect abilities. Agility is going to be useful. Cohesion is going to be one that if you want to change it, you can. It's not obviously that important. Doing my part as well. If you're not using another soldier and you're not using another overseer, then this is very useful. If you are in the same party, you can completely and freely change this. Maybe get one with the augment talents. Continuing coercion, because obviously we take coercion and demolitions. Extermination is going to be useful because we will be making a lot of attacks with Solomon, because he has a lot of way to refund attacks, such as like the navy boots and the elastic gloves, then strategic adaptation. So yeah, you would do make a lot of attacks with him. Alacrity is just very useful if you're using any of like the MK Soldier Eyes to stack agility, so when you use Revel and Slaughter you have insane damage. Muzzle velocity, because we're going to be building up rate of fire from like 20 to 30, it is really strong for any burst build. A lot of builds I take this later than I used to, but it is still really strong to take early. Dependable ally, again, yeah, if you protect an ally, you get +5 to bonus characteristics. If they're using strength and weapon skill, that can be quite useful. Vital points is going to be very powerful, because obviously it allows us to get extra stacks coming out of that fired up and some other things that are going into our critical modifiers. Enough bullets for everyone. Yeah, it's useful. You could take this one early if you want to. It's just your second attack and turn does more damage. And then the last ones, there's just kind of, we're just filling space here. Battle Mode Terror is one where, yeah, the dog gets additional stats whenever the side mastiff hits an apprehended enemy or an enemy adjacent to the protected ally, gets +1 to key characteristics. So yeah, if you're abusing the multiple attacks, then yeah, you'll slowly build stats, but it's so slow. +1 is nothing really. Tedrise is useful if you're taking a lot of shotgun shots. No Heresy is also going to be useful for Act 4 and Act 5, because there's a lot of those enemies. Like I said, getting dash will recover your movement. I wish I could take this earlier, but I really can't, because I need to get that rapid fire in. Eager for Battle is also going to be important to get additional action points, because obviously the Overseer uses a lot of action points for the dog. And Fortress is just useful to get +10% damage. You can freely swap that out, but that will kind of bring the build together. And like I said, yeah, Solomon with a burst fire rifle goes really hard. And then you've got the secondary block chance coming in for shields, which you can also use with stalwart defense. And yeah, the double barrel shotgun is going to be his best option here. There's probably some other gimmick builds you can do where you're sort of stacking things, but this version of Solomon is just solid. Like, he gets unnecessary amounts of hate because people try to only build into the area side of things and they don't explore adding on the rapid fire late game. So much like Jay, his early build is kind of what holds him back, but you can fix that by Act 3 pretty easily and you make an exceptionally powerful build. Anyway, I've been Rem619. If you've enjoyed these builds, do leave a like on the video. Do come along to either Twitch or YouTube when I live stream, because I will be doing a lot more live streams, and I think once I finish my current live stream run, the next one I'll be using the third person mod. So for those of you who haven't seen the third person mod, yeah, no, it is pretty good. It's you do see a lot of details that you previously didn't see, and I've been enjoying it a lot, and especially just being able to sort of have cutscenes where you can sort of see your companions, engage with them. If you're a big fan of Baldur's Gate 3 and you've been struggling to get onto Rogue Trader because of the sort of change of camera angles, this will be useful, and you can just freely swap between it, and you can use whichever controls you want. You can use the arrow keys for movement, you can do that with the screen edging, you can still rotate just as fine. I've managed to fix that because that's put me off, but you can also use WASD to move. So yeah, no, fun mod. I'm looking to do runs with it, and yeah, I've been Rem619. I'll see you all in the next video.